Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Sippin', Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Learn what mistakes not to make with women in the dating scene with Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Available in paperback and online booksellers today. Over the July 4th weekend, a female police officer was assassinated by a 34-year-old black man here in the South Bronx. And after this assassination, many politicians are talking about how this is a gun control issue and how we need more legislation to control the purchase of handguns and the access to handguns. However, that's not the issue that anyone needs to really deal with, because we've had gun laws on the books all over the country, yet there are numerous shootings continuing to go on. In fact, in several cases, like Dr. Henry Bello here in the South Bronx, he bought his gun legally. So when I look at all of these shootings, like the assassination of this police officer and Dr. Henry Bello's massacre here at Bronx Lebanon Hospital, I see it as part of as another incident in the man crisis in America. And a lot of people don't want to talk about this man crisis here in America, because if we talk about this man crisis, that means we're going to have to confront many of the females here in American society. And in this gynocentric society, no one wants to confront the female and hold her accountable for the way we are raising males. Because the major issue as it relates to all of these mass shootings, all of these murders, and all of these suicides that are happening in many cases here in America relate to this man crisis in America. And we have a major crisis as it relates to men in America, because this socially engineered soft male is self-destructing, and no one wants to acknowledge the problem of these soft males and why they are self-destructing here in America. Because over 50 years ago, the feminist movement came and socially engineered this soft male, and this soft male was supposed to be a kinder male, a gentler male. Unfortunately, this was a male who was never taught how to navigate his emotions. He was never taught coping skills. He was never taught conflict resolution skills. And worst of all, he was never taught how to be a man by men, because his manhood was defined by women. And as these men enter the harsh world of men, what happens to many of these soft males is that they start malfunctioning. And that's what we're seeing these days over the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years, with this uptick in mass shootings, mass murders, and suicides these days, because these males do not have the life skills to navigate the world. And the big problem as it relates to many of these males is that they have been taught a female way on how to deal with the world, not a masculine way to deal with the world. And the way females deal with the world does not work for men. And that's why we're seeing these men malfunction like we are, because all these mass shootings are a result of these males not being raised with the life skills and coping skills a man needs. Because a lot of these feminists, they thought, oh, they could raise a boy to be a man, or they could teach a boy to be a man. And a lot of these boys are not able to function because the world works differently. And when these guys go out into the world, what happens in most cases is that these males become frustrated, they become angry, and as that anger simmers and boils within them, these males eventually erupt and explode, and that's when they go out here and participate in these horrific acts of violence, whether they be assassinations like that police officer on July 4th, mass shootings like the one Dr. Henry Bello participated in, or the man from the Wee supermarket, or the guy who went to the congressional baseball game, or they go out here and they commit suicide. These guys are falling apart because they don't know how to navigate life in the world. They've been taught how the world works for women, but the way the world works for women just doesn't work for a man. And as their emotional mind tries to process things in a logical fashion, because they become frustrated, and that's when they explode in rage. And this is something most people don't want to address, again, because they don't want to confront these females and hold them accountable. Because a lot of these males feel if we confront the female about the way we are raising boys, we're going to have to change the way society works overall. And the way society works today is dysfunctional. And the reason why it's dysfunctional is because we have women defining manhood, not men. We have women taking the lead over men, and we have men feeling out of place, like they don't belong, like they don't fit, and they're feeling very angry about things. They've been taught to be nice, they've been taught to be kind, and they've been taught to hold in their feelings. And holding in your feelings is not a good thing, because when you're holding in your feelings, eventually those feelings are going to simmer and boil. And because these boys have not been taught to navigate their emotions, and they've not been taught to, you can feel something and not act on it, they eventually reach the point where they explode. And that's why we're seeing all these acts of violence. And no one in the mental health community wants to constructively deal with this, because they don't want to deal with these females. They don't want to hold the females accountable for this socially engineered soft male and his self-destruction. Because when it comes down to this soft male, he is self-destructing for a reason. And that's why we are seeing this uptick in mass shootings, this uptick in murders, this uptick in suicides, because these men are finding out that the world, it just doesn't work the way they were told, and they are becoming angry and frustrated, and they don't know how to deal with it because no one has taught them how to deal with it. They've been taught that being a man is bad. They've been taught being a man has no value, and they're trying to find their way as men, but there's no place for them. That's why I say we're having a man crisis here in America, and all these men are suffering in silence, and all we're seeing is the violence because these men have suffered in silence for so long, and no one wants to acknowledge the problem. And we really need to acknowledge the problem as related to the man crisis, because all we're going to see is more and more violence because we're not dealing with this man crisis. And when it comes down to men, men have suffered for, as I see it, way too long, and we really need to start investing resources in men. We need to start investing supports in men, and we need to put more into developing our young boys so that they can become healthy, strong, functional men, and they can learn to see their value as men. Our gynocentric society has gone out of its way to elevate women, and because we have elevated women, we have devalued men, and that's why these men are falling apart. Because I look all over American society, and I look at the big picture, and we have a major man crisis here in America. And this man crisis needs to be dealt with, and the only way we're going to deal with it is for us to, again, start investing in men. This is something most of the people in America don't want to do, but it's something we need to do, because in order for America to work, men need to be functional. Men need to have investment in self. Men need to be seen as valuable. Men need to be seen as someone that need to be respected and regarded. And when I look at the way we have treated men over the last 50 years, this is why we're having this man crisis, because we socially engineered this soft male, and this soft male, he's just not natural, he's just not healthy, and he's walking into a world, and he cannot deal with that world because he does not see a place for himself, he does not see value in himself, he does not see anything that relates to making him feel like he has a value in that world. And that's why these guys are out here exploding, self-destructing, and taking other people's innocent lives because they don't feel they have a value in their own lives. And this is something we really need to deal with in the mental health industry, because this man crisis, as I see it, is going to get way worse instead of better. But the only solution is for people to finally acknowledge the problem as it relates to men here in America and start pouring resources back into men. The more money we pour into men, the more lives I believe we'll save, and the less mass shootings we'll have, the less murders we'll have, and the less suicides we'll have among men. If you like what you see on this channel and you want to help me make more videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to read some of my books on men's issues, such as the Simp series, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.